All right, so I finished Punk Hazard. Once again, had a blast. We'll get to that shortly, but first I'm just going to say, I forgot to mention something from the last arc that I absolutely loved, and that was Nami was giving it a new log post with 3 different compasses on it, and was explained that the compasses, you get to choose which island you go to, and some will be more shaky, meaning the field or whatever log post is that's directed towards is a little unstable, possibly a dangerous island. So her and Usopp freak out right away, being like, no, what? We can choose which island is dangerous? Smash this thing. Luffy's going to want to go to the dangerous one. It's a danger detector. Luffy's going to have none of it. So Luffy overhears. So they're like, damn it, he heard. And I love that because yes, Luffy is going to want to go with the unstable compass direction. So anyhow, we're coming up. They're being attacked by a sea monster. They've caught a sea monster. They want to eat the sea monster. They get swept up in a tide of whales, the same as laboon. And I really like the idea because I noticed some of the whales had marks on their head that this is either laboon's original pod or just they were hearing his cries and were smashing into the red line the same time laboon was smashing into it, trying to get him and rescue him, which is very sweet and sad, very sad. But when Luffy calmed laboon down and told him to stop that and they'll be back and we can be rivals, their pod also stopped when the cries stopped. So I like that idea. But we get up to the surface and everything is on fire. Just everything is on fire. They have their 3 directions that they can go into, but there's another island that none of the compasses are pointing towards. So, sidestepping the story real quick, because I didn't think of it till later, but this just goes to show that there are islands out there that you really can't find if your compass and log posts don't direct you to it. So something I'm assuming is canceling out its field that directs the compass to it because it was a government organization, meaning the government can hide islands. Either that or some islands don't have a direction to them for whatever reason, and the government can take advantage of that and get their secret bases there. So, continuing on. We pick up a distress call on one of the snails, someone screaming for help, saying there's a samurai chopping us all up. It's cold here, boss, come save us. And even knowing this could be a trap, Luffy's just like, we're on the way, we're coming, we'll come save you. So the only islands close enough that that could have been coming from that to pick up the call was the one with no log post direction. So they just go right on there. Smoker intercepts this call, and he had correctly assumed that Luffy would have chosen the more dangerous island to go to, so he had been camping out at, I don't know the name of it, Razin, listing the 3 islands on the side that they could have went to, because I don't know if they're going to play a role in the future, if we're just going to sidestep them altogether. So Smoker had been waiting for Luffy and them there when he intercepted the call. It's like, oh damn, they're going to Punk Hazard, so I guess we're going to go to Punk Hazard as well to intercept them and capture them. And we learn Punk Hazard is pretty much a no-go zone, no one's allowed on. There was an incident. Okay, the most recent incident was we learned that it's where Akiji and was it Akiji? Yeah, Akiji and Magma Bastard had their fight, and it pretty much destroyed or disrupted the environment on the island. Now half it's in ice and half of it's on fire. But 3 years before that fight, there was an explosion at a government facility and gas and poison and killed everyone there, except a few who escaped. So they're going to go check that out. We also get from Brook saying that samurais are pretty much only really found in Wano, which is an isolated nation, closed borders, don't accept outsiders in, don't deal with the world government. And I realized that Wano's still a little ways away, and I realized it had been mentioned earlier, I think Thriller Bark, I think it might have been noted, something even further back. But I'm very excited that we're talking about Wano now and getting the samurais talked about because it means I'm getting close, I'm catching up. I realize you have left Wano already, but I'm catching up. Things start getting weird, and weird for even One Piece logic is, so they go out on the Mini Mary. It's, who was it? Luffy, Robin, and Zoro. Yeah, Sanji's still on the boat. And they go off on the Mini Mary to get through all the fire. They go over with Nami's help to get over it, to get to the island, and they go check it out. And they're on the fire side, and they're looking around, and all of a sudden they come across a dragon. And I'm very excited, because I love dragons. they sadly fight said dragon and kill said dragon, and of course Luffy wants to eat said dragon, and they do. And I'm just like, the dragon. We also get a pair of conscious legs that were attached to the dragon, and they need to find the body and head and all that of these legs. But Luffy's just having a time pretending to be a centaur and asking the disembodied legs to join his crew, and Usopp's like, stop inviting all these weird things to join our crew. But they go off. There's issues with water to get across, which Usopp handles with his, like, banana boat thing. And then there's more centaurs, and Luffy and them start fighting them because they're now on the freezing side and they need their coats. But of course, Luffy's also asking them to join the crew, and it's just like, stop inviting everybody to join the crew. At the same time, I'm pretty sure if Luffy says that someone's a good person, he wants them to join the crew, I am fine with that. I trust Luffy's decisions. I trust Luffy's gut to tell when a person is good, and I'm going to need to trust that for future parts in this arc as well. So back on the Sunny, everyone gets knocked out with some kind of gas and taken to a prison, except for Brook, because when everyone gets knocked out, he just falls down. So I guess he does have to breathe, maybe, or can be affected by gas. The intruders just see a skeleton, like, oh, he's dead, we're not taking them back. So they wake up in the prison with a severed head that's talking, and also in a bunch of pieces that they have to put back together. And he's just a very angry, very rude samurai that for some reason Sanji decides to take pity on and help him because he's looking for his son, who has also been captured. Frankie blasts a hole through the door because, honestly, did they really think that that door could hold the Straw Hats in? And they go running. And again, we just now have Sanji carrying a talking head who's just very upset that he has to work with disgraced pirates. And they run into a room filled with children, some of which are giant. And it's just like, okay, we're doing this now. And Nami cannot bring herself to abandon these children when they start calling for help, saying, save us, we don't want to be here anymore, we want to go back to our parents, I want my mommy. And she's like, all right, stop, guys. I get that there's people coming after us right now, and we're in danger, and I don't know how we're getting away from them, but we're taking the kids with us. And everyone's just like, we can't. And she's like, we are. So they do. And so they're running with the kids, trying to get away from the people chasing them, and they run into the exit of the building. The kids are also saying, like, we were taken from the streets, more or less. People said we were sick and had to come here for treatment, but we're so sick we couldn't even say goodbye to our parents, and we just want to go home. So Chopper obviously believes this, and Nami's just like, they were kidnapped. So they run out. Meanwhile, Smoker and his group have approached the lab that was previously owned by Vegapunk. I apologize if I say that wrong. I apologize if I say it 7 different ways throughout this video. But who has since supposedly left when the island was evacuated. And they're there, obviously, looking for the Straw Hats and seeing what they're up to. So when they go to the door, it opens to reveal my darling Law. Now, I said I would forgive this man for any and all past and future crimes because he saved my sweet, sweet, sweet Monkey D. Luffy back in Marineford. I will forgive this man for everything. Which means I might have to forgive this man for possibly being involved with the experimentation of children. I'm not 100% he knows what the other bad guy here is doing in terms of the experiments and who he's conducting said experiments on, but he's at minimum turning a blind eye. I don't believe he was unaware completely. Regardless, Law has been made one of the 7 warlords after giving the government 100 pirate hearts, and that's terrifying. I still love this man. He's got the awesome design. I loved when he opened the door and just this smug grin, big long trench coat, holding his sword, and he's just like, what are you guys doing knocking on the door of my new vacation home? And Smoker is just like, you can't be here. The don't come into this island rule applies to all government employees and warlords as well. And Law's just like, yeah, that means it applies to you. What are you doing here? And they're trying to get in, saying, let us search for the Straw Hats, and Law's just saying, no, there are no Straw Hats here. Cue Nami and everybody running up and doing the Frankie pose because they've escaped to freedom, only to go, oh no, Marines, run back inside. So Smoker has now seen the Straw Hats, as well as a bunch of giant children. And Law's just like, I didn't know they were here. And Smoker wants to go after them, but Law goes, room. And a big bubble room appears around them. And I now understand a little bit better, because we only got a glimpse of what was going on back in Sabadi, and this is the Optop fruit, so it turns everything into essentially a surgical room. And I love, love, love this power. It almost feels overpowered, even compared to all the other extreme devil fruits, but I love this. So he's able to cut up people and remove parts of people, but still keep them alive. And I think that's just really, really cool. So he chops people in half, but they're still alive. So Tashiki, she gets cut in half at one point, and Smoker gets his heart ripped out, and their warship or whatever ship gets cut into pieces and reassembled on like ice, and it's just really cool, and I love seeing him use his power. He also switched the bodies, or the minds, of the Straw Hats who had come out, I guess to slow them down so he can catch up. I'm not really sure why he did this to the Straw Hats, or if he just hadn't determined whether or not he wanted to work with the Straw Hats yet. But he also switched Smoker and Tashiki, and one example I love, the other example I did not. Starting with the example I hated, let's go with really, really quickly, and I'm not going into the full rant detail, Sanji and Nami's body. I get people keep telling me that I will come to love Sanji later, or this gets better, doesn't be as prominent kind of thing, but am I honestly supposed to ignore the fact that he just assaulted his crewmate, taking off at one point, slightly later on, she was wearing a coat, and then he took that off so he can grab her boobs. And she gets angry and punches him, and he repeatedly just talks about wanting to get a camera to take pictures of her, and he doesn't want to switch bodies back. And I'm supposed to, I need to ignore this. I have to pretend it didn't happen, because it's not something that can be forgiven, especially on top of everything else that's happened with his character. So, there's that. Flash over to me being a hypocrite slightly, because Smoker and Tashiki's body, I love. That was hilarious, but it's because it's showing the character traits of the character, and it's just I prefer this character trait over Sanji's character trait. So Smoker, he always has his coat unbuttoned, he's always smoking and all that, and he's not going to change how he sits or anything like that just because he's in Tashiki's body. So shirt is all unbuttoned and up just because that's how he does it, and he's smoking, sitting and all chill and being all pissed. Well, Tashiki's all embarrassed. It's like, will you button up my shirt? And he's like, no. And I shouldn't like that. I shouldn't, but it's like, at least his character design is for him, and Sanji's is, oh, now I can finally touch Nami the way I want to, compared to I'm just going to be myself. So that's my excuse for why I feel I'm being slightly hypocritical. We also have, who is it? Chopper is in Sanji's body, and Frankie is in Chopper's body. And I love Frankie in Chopper's body because it's a combination. No, it's not even a combination of cute and creepy. It's just creepy, and I love it. It's great. And Nami is in Frankie's body, and that's a combination of scary, creepy, and just kind of cute. So I like that as well. Cut to Luffy and his group, who have defeated the centaurs and are now riding on the leader's back, Brownbeard, who is part giant crocodile. And they come around because they need to get to the lab, because Brook had called and told them that everyone had been kidnapped, and also he's fighting a severed torso. And then they show up just as Law is finishing off with Smoker. And Luffy is just like, Traffy, whatever he calls him, like, hey, I remember you from 2 years ago. Thanks for saving me. Good to see you. And Law's just like, don't thank me for saving you. We're still pirates. We're going to be enemies in the future, kind of thing. And Luffy's just like, yeah, whatever. Good to see you. And I don't think we make... No, not yet. So Luffy meets up with the rest of his crew, and we get the head put on the legs, but we're still missing the torso. And Chopper finds out that the kids, he's able to examine them, and they have been drugged with what they thought was candy, and it is accelerating their growth to make giant soldiers, and it is going to fail. This experiment has apparently been done in the past. It always results in the death of those experimented on, and Chopper's just so upset that it's being used now on these children. However, I'm just going to talk about it all right here. Sprinkled throughout the arc, we have the kids slowly going through like withdrawal of the drugs, and they're getting angry, and they want their candy, and then the big bad comes and kidnaps the kids eventually. Cut to Smoker figuring out who the big bad is this Caesar the clown guy who did work with Vegapunk and has a devil fruit that turns him into gas and poison and allows him to control all gas. Toshigi also pieces together why the children are here, because there's an island nearby that has had an uptake in missing children, but every time the Navy goes to investigate, the report just says like shipwreck or something like that, and that the parents just can't accept that their kids were lost at sea, even though the initial reports will say like taken off the streets or they were playing in their front yard, now they're gone. So she suspects that there's a mole or someone in their organization in the Navy covering all this up and helping to abduct the children, to which Smoker says so long as humans involved, there's always going to be corruption. Then you have Brownbeard, who is completely loyal to this Caesar the Clown guy for how Caesar the Clown had saved them from the effects of the poison that Vegapunk had put out on the island, because everyone was paralyzed and lost the use of their legs, so he gave them equipment to use their legs again, and then when Law came, he kind of cut everybody up to give them animal legs to work as like centaurs and all that. So they are completely loyal to this Caesar guy. Caesar guy orders a hit on the Straw Hats, including Brownbeard. He's also talking to some guy named Joker, who had to approve kind of this hit. And that's when Brownbeard realizes that, oh, the Caesar guy has been using me as like a guinea pig, and he's abusing and experimenting on my men. I can't take this anymore. All right, I'm going after him. We have Nami and Frankie's body, who has been kidnapped because the lasers that were used to blast open the door was actually lasers that he had gotten through plans and all that were designed by the Vegapunk guy. I might as well talk about that Vegapunk real quick right now. I don't know if he's going to be a bad guy, because he's the one, so he designed Frankie's lasers. I get he didn't give them the lasers. Frankie just found the plans at an abandoned lab. But he's also the one who agreed to put that program into Kuma to protect the Sunny. And we learn, because obviously, later, that it wasn't Vegapunk who unleashed the poison on this island. It was Caesar who did that, kind of as an experiment, see if he could show I'm better, show I can make the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. And Vegapunk was the one saying, no, don't do this. This is madness. So I'm leaning towards he's going to be a scientist, but who lost the idea of like right and wrong in pursuit of technological and scientific achievement and advancement, see what can be done, and doesn't realize the effect it's having on populations and how the government's actually using it. So I'm hoping we can turn him over to our side, or he is already on our side, and one of the programs put into the Kuma robots is to convert them all over to work with Dragon again. I don't know. I like the idea now more than I did previously. Previously, I didn't like the idea of both Kuma and the Vegapunk guy both being on Dragon's side. Now I don't hate it. Cut to Law, who goes in to talk to Caesar and gives him Smoker's heart that had just been stolen. And we also learned that Law had given Caesar his own heart as like collateral for I'm not going to betray you, but also Caesar gave him the heart of his assistant to keep that trust going both ways. So I can kill you, but you can always kill my beloved assistant here. And Law has decided something, because he's got his own thing going on. I had been iffy, again, all the forgiveness in the world, because he saved my sweet monkey D. Luffy. I love this man, but I'm like, are you working with the bad guy? Do I have to ignore the fact that you're also working with this guy? Law is on his own side, and I love that for him. He's got a plan. I love a man with a plan. So he goes out, and he ends up chopping up the guy who kidnapped Nami and Frankie's body, and goes to talk to Luffy, being like, hey, do you want to make an alliance with me? I plan to take down one of the Emperors of the Sea. I gotta be careful not to call them warlords. And Luffy is just like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. Lots of fun. And Law immediately regrets this decision. I laughed for a good 5 minutes at this panel here. And then throughout the arc, there's other little moments of his face. And I'm just like, he doesn't know what he's getting himself into. I keep thinking back to Fishman Island when Caribou was on their crew, on their boats, held hostage more or less, and the monster attacking and Luffy being like, let's tame it, I want to keep it as a pet, let's sail into danger, and him being like, these people are crazy. So I can't wait to see Law having to deal with all the antics of the Straw Hats and Luffy specifically. I cannot wait for that. I also really love Robin being like, hey, just because he wants an alliance doesn't mean he's not going to betray you, and Luffy being like, are you going to betray me? And Law being like, no. Okay. So cute. Again, I trust Luffy's gut. I have to trust Luffy's gut because I don't want Law to betray him. But if he does, that is the line. You're not allowed to betray Luffy. I will hate you. So the plan is to kidnap Caesar for the next part of Law's plan, and Law's agreed to help, if possible, save the kids. And then they kind of just go their separate ways right there after Luffy basically says, even if he does betray us, I trust in my strength, I trust in my crew's strength, we can handle this. And again, I love the faith that Luffy has in his crew. Now, Brook, Sanji, and Zoro are out looking for the samurai head and legs, who are kind of attached together, because they ran off to look for the torso. And they do end up finding him, but he's saying, like, I'm very cold, I don't know what's going on, and they determine that the torso is down in the water. Law had already switched everyone else back in their correct bodies, but Sanji had already left, so Nami's now in Sanji's body, and Sanji's still in Nami's body. And he has to dive into the water to go get the torso just before, or just after, what do you call this thing? Slimy, I think, or Smiley. A monster made of poison and goo unleashed on the island and turning everything into poison, who also ate a devil fruit. The personification gump of slime and poison has eaten a devil fruit that allows it to paralyze people and continue to enact its poison so they can't run away from it. Of course it did. So when they come up, we now have the samurai all put back together. I will not be trying to pronounce his name in this arc. I will learn it for the next one. And he ends up chopping through the poison, which leads to an explosion, so the samurai just chops through the explosion. And that is a technique that Zoro wants to learn. So he's all up for following the samurai back into the lab to look for his son. And I am completely fine with that. So samurai is after looking for his kid. Luffy goes to attack Caesar, but Caesar's men and Smoker are all out front, and Luffy has a good shot at punching him out because he's got the haki and he can physically touch him. Too bad he's not the person that's made of magma, and we could see him get his head knocked off. But regardless, even though he's able to touch him, he's still breathing in the poison, which means if he had magma, he would still probably be burned, but regardless. But Luffy, thankfully, is more or less immune to poison, or at least most poisons, after his encounter with the warden. So he's able to take the poison, but he's not able to deal with the fact that this guy can also remove air, so he can't breathe, and then Luffy gets knocked out. Smoker also gets taken, while some of his men get blown up, as well as Tashigi and Robin, and they're all been captured. Law had taken Chopper, who was no longer on his head, was just dangling from his sword, back inside the lab, and got the assistant to go with him. So I assume Chopper could go look for a way to help the kids, but she ended up realizing he was going to betray her, and Caesar also brought in, what's his name, Virgo? I'm going to stick with Virgo, who is a vice admiral in the Navy and kind of in charge of the location I think that Smoker's at. but he has actually been a pirate all this time, working for Joker, who Law reveals is Doflamingo, and he takes down Law pretty easily, partly because I think Law doesn't have his heart. So Law is also kidnapped. So he's in the cell with everyone else, and Luffy's just having a time, and Robin's just like, oh, it's just making you nostalgia. Remember when I kidnapped you all back in Alabasta and you guys were all tied up as well? And Luffy's just having to laugh. Frankie's also there. And he's like lying on Robin's lap, being like, oh god. And La is just being hilarious, completely slumped down on the floor with just his head like poked up, being like, And just thinking if I can cut to the escape or if anything else important happened while they were kidnapped. No, it just doesn't matter. So how they end up escaping is probably one of my favorite things and got me to really like Law's character because he's like, all right, now it's time to put our counteract into motion. So either he already planned for this to happen as part of plan A, or he expected something like this to happen and has a plan B ready for it. So he asked if anyone here can light that ship down there on fire. Doesn't matter if you can't. So I assume he had a plan C in place in case no one involved in the kidnapping had a firepower. But Frankie sets that on fire, smoke comes up, and he's like, perfect. He then easily gets out of his sea stone handcuffs. I apologize if I call them sea prism. I feel like I was told sea prism once, and that's stuck in my head, but sea stone, I think is what it's called this time. And they're like, how did you do that? Like, what the hell? And he's like, I expected something like this to happen. I've been hiding chains all over the lab, so if I was ever captured, I could switch the sea stone ones out with regular ones that I could escape from. He then unlocks everyone else and tells Smoker and Tashigi that if they want out, then they can come with them and help them stop Caesar and Virgo. Or he can leave them in this cage to die by the approaching poison that's coming and also know that all their men are probably going to die as well. So they end up switching them back into the correct bodies and escaping and going into the lab where they meet up with Smoker's group who have all come in along with Zoro, the samurai, Brook, Usopp, pretty much everyone is in, who had to cut a hole through the door, and now Smoker's team is arguing with the Straw Hats, being like, now we have to patch all this up and airtight to keep the poison from coming in. And Luffy's just like, all right, let's get this started up. I'm going to kidnap Caesar, like I said. Chopper, as well as I think Nami, is trying to help with the kids and find them, but it's shown that only one of the children was able to get enough understanding of what was going on, that they were being hurt and poisoned, the candy was bad for them. So she's trying to keep the candy away from the kids, but they're all like gone monstrous crazy attacking her. So she ends up having to eat all of the candy herself to protect the other kids. That makes her really sick. Cut to Smoker's team where Virgo? Yes, he comes in and starts attacking them. And they must believe that this is an imposter, a shapeshifter. He's under mind control. Like, this can't be our good vice admiral. But he is. And Sanji ends up stepping in to protect Tashigi. And in result, all the other crew. And they get Tashigi to safety and run through. Now, so Sanji has effectively taken control of Smoker's army while Smoker's out with La. And I love all their interactions. 99% of the interactions. There's a lot of I only want praise from women and let's all protect Tashigi because she's so pretty. I'm ignoring that because it's hilarious seeing him fight and work with these Navy soldiers, especially when they run through Zoro's fight. Zoro is fighting the Harpy Bird Woman assistant to Caesar, and when they're running through, he's like, everyone pull down your eyelid and stick your tongue out, mock him as we run. And I'm like, oh, and they all do, and it's hilarious, and I love it. So Smoker and Tashigi also start fighting the Harpy lady, what's her name? I'm going with Monet, something like that. And I appreciate this element here. So Zoro is only being on the defensive when fighting her, and it's called out, hey, you're just being defensive, you're not using your full power, is it because I'm a woman? There's no way for you might not lose, but you're not going to win if you don't attack. and then Tashigi cuts in, but Zoro has to save her. And this time he does attack, and he attacks to maim, like chop her in half. Works well, battle over. Except he didn't use haki, so she's putting herself back together, and Tashigi has to finish her off, more or less. And I choose to interpret this in two ways. One, he's not going to use his full force and fighting skill on a woman because he doesn't want to, similar to Sanji's reasoning. Or he's slowly stepping it up. Like, first I'll give you I'll analyze like how much force I can use on you by just defending, and then I'll make a non-lethal attack, because I'm not Sanji, I will strike you. And you have the chance to run away, but if you don't, if Tashigi hadn't stepped in, that third step up would have been to kill you. So I'm going with it as a progression of escalation that he doesn't always offer to the male characters that he fights, which I'm still slightly annoyed with. I'd rather you just treat everyone equally when they're fighting and trying to kill you, but I'll take that. That's a happy medium. Or option number two, which I'm leaning a little bit more towards, and that's he's like his Master Mihawk here, my darling love, who does not use a cannon to hunt rabbits and was deciding just how much force to use at a given time. I miss Mihawk. I can't wait to get to him again. So Sanji runs past Zoro and ends up joining Nami's group with Chopper and the girl who just took in all the candy, and they are able to hold off the children and restrain them and give them like a tranquilizer with the help of Chopper, and get the girl who is injured and took all the candy to safety to be treated. Cut to Luffy, who's still chasing after Caesar, but he ends up going down through the floor into like the trash spare part room kind of thing and finds a dragon. And I'm like, yay, dragon. Luffy is just like, ooh, dragon, food, tastes good. And I'm just like, oh no, don't eat another dragon. But the dragon ends up happening to be the son of the samurai. And for a second, I'm petrified that Caesar had just been turning everybody into dragons. And the dragon that we ate previously was a person. And I was scared for that, but I don't think so. I think that was just an experimentation that Vegapunk had made. It says like to adapt to an environment, so I guess maybe it might have even turned into a dragon after Magma Bastard set everything on fire, for all I know. I don't think that one was a person. So we learned that the drug that Law is after, SAD, is used to create the artificial devil fruits that this child had eaten and turned him into a dragon. So Caesar is selling the drug or the devil fruits, or both, to Joker, aka Doflamingo, who is then selling them to Kaido, the person who is on my list for delaying Shanks to prevent him from getting to Marineford to save Ace or stop the war earlier that could have resulted in Ace's life. So again, Kaido is still on my list for just indirect measurement. So I am 100% fine with him being the warlord that Law wants to take down. So, Luffy explains to the Dragon Kid that, hey, you ate a devil fruit, you can turn back to human, it's all good. My friends have already promised to save the other children, so don't you worry about them. When my friends say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. So with the inspiration from Luffy, he's able to fly them out, and they go after Caesar again. Along with brownbeard, they meet up with him at one point, because brownbeard is trying to get his crew to realize, hey, stop worshipping this guy like a god, think for yourself, which they don't, and you're being taken advantage of, and no one believes him. So back to Law and Smoker, who are attacking Virgo, and they get Smoker's heart. Was it Smoker's heart back? Yeah, they get Smoker gets his heart back, and I think they get Law's heart back. Yes, and they end up actually pretty easily taking Virgo down at one point. They take him down, and then it reveal all this stuff with the SAD. Now, I was most excited to see Luffy punching Caesar so hard in the face, because that was beautiful. We already know who Luffy is, and Sanji had stated previously that Virgo was the type of person that his captain hates the most, the one who would kill and take advantage of and betray his own crew. And the same thing with Caesar. He is taking advantage of these people. They are worshiping him. They are working for him. They're loyal to him, and he doesn't care. He is using them. He's abusing his power. He's abusing who's in essentially his crew, and Luffy's having none of it. So he is fighting with everything he got, and this whatever ghost-looking poison gas thing has nothing on Luffy. So he starts threatening Luffy, being like, you don't understand. I am protected by one of the 7 warlords. I work for Doflamingo, who is the Joker, the master of the criminal underworld. He has so much power, you don't have a hope or prayer to defeat him. So beg for forgiveness, because you're just going to incur his wrath if you continue to fight me. And Luffy's just like, that has never stopped me before. Monkey D. Luffy punches this man in the face. It is beautiful. He goes flying out the door, through a wall outside the island. And Luffy, who totally has demonstrated so many times in the past that he can definitely stick to a plan, says, I don't even want to kidnap you anymore. Cut to everybody rejoining. And while all this was happening, there was all the different sections of the lab were being locked off because Caesar was letting the poison into different ones, so they had to race through all the doors, which was a fun element, kind of ticking clock, but I wasn't really all that concerned of anyone important not making it through. So now they're all ready to leave through the back exit. Law's pissed that Caesar got away, because what if he makes it back to Doflamingo and then this whole plan of his is out the window, it's not going to work. But Luffy's just like, we'll handle it, don't worry. So Frankie is on the outside to either get the Sunny or the Mini Mary. I can't remember which. But he sees Caesar there, so he starts wanting to fight them, because 2 other ones that were sent by Doflamingo, there was like Baby 5, and I don't remember the other one's name, but he's like, had a propeller for a face? I don't know. Have come to collect Caesar. So Frankie starts fighting them. And while everyone else is rushing out, thanks to Nami, they're able to get out of the building in time and clear some poison out of the way. They crash down, and Caesar is being flown away, and they're like, we have to get him. So Usopp and Nami step up, and they're like, we're always ready to take down an opponent who is injured, fleeing, on the run, and no threat to us. So Usopp has been all this time trying to collect some sea stone shackle stuff, and he shoots them out, and with Nami's lightning thing, they all go down, and they're able to capture Caesar, and Law's able to put the final part of his plan in motion, which is to directly call Doflamingo. He's talked to him a few times already, but regardless, is just like, all right, the SAD has been destroyed. I have the only man capable of making it, which means you have no more Zoan artificial fruits to sell to Kaito, whoever his name is. And so here's what I want from you. I will give you this man back, and you can continue your operation if you first declare that you're no longer a warlord, give up that position, and leave Dressrosa, where you're currently reigning as king. And if you don't do that, you can answer to the crazy Emperor of the Sea on why you can't give him any more devil fruits. Your choice. Doflamingo, pissed, goes back to Punk Hazard and is just like, where are the Straw Hats? Where are La? Because he finds Smoker there. And nearly kills Smoker. It's only when Kuzan shows up and stops him, and he realizes, oh, I don't want to fight a former admiral, because he has now left the military. And there's a little bit of talk on whether or not Kuzan knows some black market people to know to come here, but regardless, he's just tells Smoker's group, I was never here, keep it that way. Kuzan, aka former Akiji, yeah, we'll go with that, is no longer on my list. He is the first person removed from my I want to see list, because A, he left the military, B, I was never that angry at him to begin with, I was still angry at him, and his impact with Robin and sort of protecting her in the past, so I'm just like, I'll let it slide, you're off my list, but you're very easily could go back on it. Again, one of my favorite things about this arc was seeing the Straw Hats and the military working together, especially when they were partying on this big tanker, and they're just having a time. But later on, when they all separate again, the Navy men are telling the children, you have to trust us. Don't trust the pirates. They're horrible. They're dirty. Don't trust the bad people. And they start crying, being like, but when we were calling for help, it wasn't the Navy who came to save us. It was those pirates. Like, I want to be a pirate. Why? How are they bad people? And the Navy continue to be like, no, they're pirates. Pirates are bad. Tashiki's like, stop this, guys. And the pirates are like, we can't, because if we admit or if we say that they're not terrible people, if we don't keep insulting them, then we're going to have to admit that we like them. And I love that because they're friends, and I love it, and I want to see them work together again, but they're not. They're going to be enemies when they meet up again. But then they're going to be forced to join the same side again and reluctantly work together, and I love that. I also like Nami being like, knows the importance of like a strong Navy woman taking care of children, because her mother, adopted mother, was the Navy, and she just knows that the kids are going to be safe and looked after. And overall, this was just a really, really, really fun time. There was just so much going on, so much craziness. It went a little bit long there in the middle. I really loved the beginning. I really loved the ending. There were small sections in the middle that I'm just like, let's just get through this. But again, I'm so, so excited to see what's up with Law and how he's going to interact with the Straw Hats. I am questioning why his crew is not here, because Luffy even mentions, like, hey, where's your crew? Where's the bear? I don't know where they are. I remember the panel of them being so happy, and when Law said, we're not going to the New World yet, I got a plan, trust me. And they're like, yeah, we trust you. So I don't think of the 100 hearts that were given to the government that his crew was among them. I don't think that. But I do want to know where they are and if they're involved in like phase 2 of his plan. I want to know what his relationship with Doflamingo is, because I think Virgo had said, like, how dare you betray us, because we know Law had worked for Doflamingo and Virgil in the past. Is like, don't you know he was keeping the heart seat open for you? I don't know what that is. Oh, 2 more things I forgot. The ending of kind of this arc was wonderful, and again, shows how much I like Law and his plans, because when he had given the heart of Smoker to Caesar, it wasn't actually Caesar's. So they were in like a you hurt me, I hurt you kind of stalemate, where Caesar had Law's heart and Law had the Harpy Lady, Monet's heart. So instead of giving Caesar Law's heart, Caesar Smoker's heart, he had given him Monet's heart. So when Monet was about to press a button to completely destroy the entire island under Doflamingo's orders to prevent anyone from going after Caesar and just destroying everybody, Caesar is just like, I'll take at least Law, or I'll take Smoker or someone down with me. So he stabs that heart and ends up killing Monet ends up saving everybody. So that was just like a very well execution of Law's plan, where he had made Caesar believe he was given Smoker's heart instead of Monet's. And then also in the arc, we got a couple moments of pirates in the New World and a couple of the emperors, but also Kid and who was it? Hawkins, who still has one of my favorite designs with the tarot cards and everything. I'm most excited to see him of the new Supernova bad generation. And a third one, Air something? On-air pirates, something like that. So I want to see what their alliance is going to be, because those 3 have made an alliance. And it's just going to get crazy soon. And I am so close to being caught up. I'm still a little ways away, but I'm so close. I'm getting very, very excited. So I'm going to go start the next arc. It will be put in a multitude of different videos. I don't know how long it'll take, how many videos, but before that, we have to go to the community tab. So just as a reminder, whenever I start an arc, I put the community tab up. If there's any questions that I should cover about that arc the week before, kind of thing. So this community tab saying I started Punk Hazard has the questions for Desrosa. So Fishman Island had the questions for Punk Hazard. Now there's still a couple here from talking about Fishman Island, because I don't think it's very clear what ones I'm asking for questions for, but that's fine. How do I feel about Nami's forgiving of Jinbei previously? I think that was really well done. Showed you're not going to hold hatred for him, given his situation, given Arlong's situation, and her issue was with Arlong specifically, not Fishman as a whole. Thankfully, I addressed most of these Fishman Island ones in that video. There is one here. Do you notice the parallels between characters in this arc? Which leaders of the North America Black Movement, Odahime, Martin Luther King Jr., and Fisher Tiger, Malcolm X. I did take notice of that. It's just that when it comes to allegories and whether or not it was the intention of the author to directly parallel this or take inspiration from, or if he's taking inspiration from multiple similar events in different parts of history, I don't really want to comment on it just because it might not have been taken solely from one event, and I don't want to ignore if he got inspiration from another event in history that had similar issues, but definitely took a lot of inspiration from Malcolm X and Martin Luther King in the events of Fishman Island. Oh, that's something I didn't address. Still Fishman Island stuff, but the inheritance of will, with the princess inheriting Odahime's will, Hody inheriting Arlong and Fisher Tiger's will, and Luffy possibly inheriting Joy Boy's will. So that's not a spoiler, that Luffy may be the one who is Joy Boy, because again, main character, I assumed. Or it could just be someone else. But I like the idea of inheritance of will, of just, this thing needs to happen, and someone in the future will see it through. So not only the princess inheriting the mother's will, but also her brothers. Just seeing someone you loved and respect to conclude their goals and journey and dream. Oh no, what if Luffy... Okay, this is not happening. This is not happening, but what if Luffy doesn't achieve his dream of finding the One Piece and becoming the Pirate King, and someone has to inherit his will, and it's like, I am doing this for Luffy, because even though he's gone, I'll see it to its completion. I don't want that. I don't want that. Howdy inheriting Arlong and Fisher Tiger's will is a very good interpretation, because Arlong inherited like the anger and vengeful thing and hatred of human, but kept the protecting of my own kind, like he didn't attack fishmen, whereas Hody was just like, I hate everybody, became what he hated, and enslaved his own people, enslaved humans, attacked and was vengeful, and didn't even have the background personally that the other two had, and is just getting twisted, whereas I kept calling Fish Tiger, which I know now is wrong, it's Fisher Tiger. I swear, I have an issue with names where letters just get dropped if it's a name. Doesn't matter if it's a word on its own, if it's a name, my brain does not like it. But Fisher Tiger at least recognized his own biases and his own hatred and consciously moved to not act on them, even if he couldn't overcome them, and not instill that hatred on the next generation, yet his will was passed on in its hatred form. So I would actually argue that Jinbei is a better interpretation of Fisher Tiger's will, and I like that. Someone mentioned about the princess being one of the ancient weapons, and I'm just going to say, because I'm still getting comments in the previous video about how my tinfoil hat theory won't work, because about Roger being the Pluton won't work because we have like the blueprints for the Pluton. I'm working under the assumption that the ancient weapons require a captain and a ship, so like the Noah and the princess will make the Poseidon. So the fact that I said that Roger will be the ultimate weapon of the Pluton is not directly not going to happen because we know the blueprints for a ship of Pluton exist. It's probably not going to happen because it's a stupid, crazy tinfoil hat theory, but I still like it. And I have not been disproven of it as a possibility. Outside of nostalgia, where would you rank One Piece in terms of quality with your all-time books and manga? Okay. Top of my head, where I'm not going to think things through of everything I've ever read and watched, One Piece is probably number one on the list. Give me a second to see if there's anything that tops it. I love the Dresden Files with all my heart and soul. Do I like the Dresden Files more than One Piece? I refuse to answer the question. I refuse to answer the question. That Dresden Files or One Piece, I cannot be asked. They're two different things. We have urban fantasy, crime noir, wizard detective starting urban fantasy turning into epic fantasy with hints of Lovecraftian stuff going on and mysteries and found family and friendship combined with pirates, and there's deeper meanings and themes and world building and characters I love, and heartbreak. There's more heartbreak in One Piece. Too different to compare any other ones. My absolute still love for Naruto comes more from its characters, so no one I think has topped Itachi and his storyline specifically in terms of raw emotion and heartbreak. I don't even think One Piece has topped that, but part of it could be I was, 12 when I read that and didn't see it coming and was crying at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's too heavily based in nostalgia to accurately determine how much of that heartache was just the story and the characters and how much was teenage me and emotions. Also, Shikamaru and Asuma's arc with Hidan and Kakuzu. I don't think anything tops that arc either. It's hard to say. I will have to reread Naruto to make an accurate comparison, but those two moments do not top all of One Piece as a whole. So yes, I will firmly state One Piece has passed Naruto in my best anime of all time list. What else do I absolutely love that could even hold a candle to One Piece? Death Note. The all-consuming love I have for Death Note, and I have watched that series start to finish no less than 15 times. That is my comfort anime, watched twice a year, every single year from grade 6 into undergrad, into grad school, and it's not as good as One Piece, obviously, for that. I don't think there's any other shows, books, movies, anime, manga high on my list that compare. So it's between One Piece and the Dresden Files. If you catch up to the One Piece manga, will you make weekly reviews, reactions to the chapters? Most likely, because I'm going to be too excited. I'm going to need someone to talk to about these recent ones. So when I get caught up, I need to talk to somebody about it, and none of my friends read One Piece. So I'm putting them onto the internet and hoping someone will have a conversation with me. With your first class of the Yonkai Four Emperors Big Mom, what can you say about her? I like the idea of her being a pirate who isn't all that interested in treasure. She wants sweets, so treasure is no... You can't bribe her with treasure if she wants sweets. So I like her being firm to what she wants. She's a pirate who goes after what she wants and doesn't care about everything else. So if you take that away from her, you got nothing else to offer her. That's what she wants, and I like that. Do you remember back at Skypiea it was mentioned that the poneglyph that Poseidon was on Fishman Island? Yes, I think it was addressed in Fishman Island that they read about this in Skypiea. It's why Robin was in the forest. And for that matter, do you remember in Alabasta the poneglyph that the Pluton was... The poneglyph said Pluton is in Water 7. Yes. Thoughts on how the Boa sisters, having met the Fisher Tiger and seeing his background, love that they have cross paths. It really just interconnects the story better. Oh, now you have another reason to hate that mousy Marine from Nami's Island who was taking bribes to keep Arlong from being reported to the Marines. I forgot about him. Oh, yes, because we knew he was taking bribes back then. We just didn't overly know what the bribes were for. We thought it was to look the other way for what we're doing on this island, not taking the bribes to keep Jinbei from knowing about it, that mousy guy. My question to Punk Hazard, how do you feel about the alliance with Luffy and Law? I am so excited for the alliance with Luffy and Law. I want to see Law's reaction to the insanity that is the Straw Hat crew. Would you have liked for Luffy not to be affiliated with any other group in this way, or if you could choose another one of the supernova pirates that's got introduced in Sabaody, would you choose another instead of Law? I don't know any of the other supernovas well enough to say that. I am happy that we get him in Alliance, because it has not been stagnant in story at all. I've loved everything. I've loved just being with the Straw Hats, but it does mix things up to add another person onto the ship to change up the dynamic a little bit and just see how they react to the Straw Hats, which, again, I love. If it hadn't been Law, and I'm happy it's Law, because we already have the background of him fighting with Sabaody and also rescuing him from Marineford. So, but if I couldn't choose Law as an option, I would choose him, just given we've had more background with him. I guess technically I'd probably go with Kid, just because we had him saving him in Sabati. Or I'd go with Hawkins, just because he still has, like, one of my favorite character designs. Oh, no, or Drake, who turns into not a T-Rex, a different dinosaur, I've been told. Because I feel Luffy would love having a dinosaur on board. Or he'd try to eat him, so that probably wouldn't go well. When you get to chapter 668, can you scrutinize the cover page, and what can you say about it? Let me get my iPad. Oh. I don't know if it's going to focus. Oh my god, I remember when this popped up. I was so sad just seeing it, but you can also see, like, the passage of time between things look older and the flag's got the holes in it, and then just the flowers left behind and some food and offerings, and there's a magazine down there, which I can only assume, especially because it's on Ace's tomb, that it's going to say something about Luffy and maybe a new bounty or him being alive or something like that, them being back. And the swords around it just, like, protecting them in death, standing with them even in death, and the love for Pops and Ace. I love Whitebeard so much. What do you think about Law having joined the 7 warlords? Again, I like that idea. But I'm hesitant because it seemed like there was a line in there saying he joined the 7 warlords so he could get close to Caesar and at Punk Hazard, and I'm just like, the last time someone joined the warlords for a outside purpose like this to get into a location was Blackbeard. I'm slightly scared for that. I don't want Law to betray me. Or the Straw Hats. How do you feel about Magma Brat succeeding Sengoku as Fleet Admiral and not Okiji? Pissed. I need him to die. But it did make Kuzan leave the government, so he got off my to-kill list. What can you say about Caesar the Clown as a villain? Was he a good one or just plain annoying? He was what he was. He wasn't like Hody, whatever, Fishman Island in terms of personification of themes that they were pushing. He was just kind of over-the-top evil. I want to make weapons of mass destruction. I want to make an island or land of the dead. He wasn't as fleshed out in terms of backstory and as an actual character as previously. So we are lacking a little bit there. He's probably one of my least favorite of the villains we've come across. One of, not the. With more of a glimpse of Doflamingo, what do you think of him overall? Love his character design. Loved the over-the-top feathers and the glasses. I loved, he was getting attacked by, Baby 5? Who can, like, get weapons everywhere. And at one point, it looks like he took control of her and made her have the gun to her own head. And he's just, like, nonchalant when he's being attacked, moving out of the way, not a care in the world. I'm too powerful to be touched. And then he's like, let me just run to Punk Hazard over the water. This devil fruit user just running over water. No big deal. I'm assuming running on air. It's kind of like Sanji, or with his power or whatever, because he's like a puppet master, I think. So maybe his strings. I don't know. No hesitation fighting Smoker. But smart enough not to mess with Kuzan, so I'm just like, not an idiot. But still not all powerful, because we know he's frightened of... I should learn if it's Kaido or Kato before filming this video, but regardless, scared of him, or don't want to upset him, and now he has a history with Law, so I know we're going to get some backstory there soon. I'm excited for Doflamingo. Also excited to eventually I was reading classics a while ago. I was doing some Jane Austen, but I do need to read Don Quixote, and that's his first name, so I'm excited to read that book now. What do you think of Smoker refusing to tell Doflamingo? Oh, I forgot to mention that. Refusing to tell Doflamingo where the Straw Hats went, even though he was about to be killed. I love that moment, because he knows Luffy's an idiot and would not have just said we're going to this location next if he wasn't actually going to that location. He knew Luffy is not going to set him up and lie to him, because Luffy's a terrible liar. So I think it shows that Smoker genuinely respects Luffy, and at least enough to say that I'm going to be the one to bring him in. I'm not going to have someone else do it. I'm not going to have you go after him to kill him. It's not going to be on my head. So I love that. I really like Smoker and Luffy's interactions a lot, because when Tashigi and him had the body switch, Luffy's like, why Smoker get so weak? Oh, you're Tashigi. And Smoker in Tashigi's body tries to attack. It's like, yeah, you don't have the power. Wait till you're in your own body and then we can have our fights. It's just respect, and I love it. And I love that he didn't tell doflamingo where the Straw Hats were going. Okay, so asking about Marineford. Make a comparison, because on its own, like even as a standalone watch, Marineford is one of the best arcs of any manga. Or the best arc of any manga. Only one other arc from Hunter x Hunter comes close to it in its greatness. So could you do a comparison of Marineford with any other anime arcs or book chapters or movies? Spoilers for Naruto manga. I'm sorry. So personally, I don't think anything tops yet the Shikamaru's revenge arc to go after Hidan Kakazu. The plan he had in place, backup plans in place, being able to rework his plan to include Kakashi when he showed up, how he dealt with the villains, and the raw emotions and grief explored in that arc between talking with his father and then going off. Again, I'm trying my best not to go into spoilers. And then his final line. So I went from sobbing, crying to, yes, that is my boy. Is that better than Marineford? I think it's doing different things. The first one starts out with the heartache and the pain, and I am dying inside, sobbing uncontrollable mess. And then moves to overcome that grief and seek revenge and succeed. Spoilers. And it's a shonen, okay? He succeeds in getting his revenge. Spoilers for Naruto manga. I'm sorry. Whereas Marineford is, we're excited, we think we're overcoming everything, we're doing great, I'm excited. We're seeing all these characters come together and attacking, and I am hopeful and optimistic, and I am sobbing multiple times in what we were going through to get to Ace, and then we have the heartache, uncontrollable pain. And I love that we grieve for Ace first as Luffy's brother, and then the next arc we grieve for him as a character as we learn more about him and his past. So they're just doing different things, but both of them hit me hard. And I don't think I can say one is better than the other, especially considering I haven't reread the Shikamaru arc recently. For books, Dresden Files changes. Does anything top changes? Oh, sweet summer child I was. I don't think anything tops changes. I'm working through my reread, so I've only read that book once. I'm only at Summer Night yet. So when I get to changes, I will just, which is the 12th book in the series, I will let you know if that is better than Marineford or not, and you can agree to disagree. But my God, changes. That being said, I don't know if it works as a standalone. Changes does not work as a standalone. You have to see the build-up, you have to know the characters, you have to see how all this came together. It's no good just to read that book on its own. You need to know the history. Also, Garp was duty-bound. I know Garp was duty-bound, okay? I understand that. I understand Garp did the correct thing in terms of his job and the world. I care more about a character who would say, screw the world, I'm protecting my family. So Garp did the right thing. I still hate him for it. Garp was duty-bound. It shows there are different types of people in this universe. Some go family friend come first, like Luffy, whereas others go duty-bound. Garp and Aokiji agreed, but they still give the chance for the right action to occur, letting Luffy pass, letting Robin pass respectfully. Agreed. Completely agree. It works great for their characters. It was great character writing. I love that Oda chose to go in this direction. I still am pissed off at Garp. Ooh, and also, what do you think of Law's speech about destroying the gears? So, I think it's like, this is the age of the daring and mighty. There's no turning back. I've destroyed the gears kind of thing. It's unleashing hell in the new world. And is just showing that Law has a plan. He's going to dismantle the order that's currently happening right now and just shake everything up. A new age of piracy. The supernovas and the worst generation are now going to be wreaking havoc kind of vibes. Or he's going to switch up, like he's going to possibly take down like the oppression or whatever and is his something. I'm getting very much like Daenerys Targaryen, I'm not here to stop the wheel, I'm here to break the wheel vibes. So I'm excited to see what his past was and how he wants to change the new world. That is exciting. All right, so that's all those there. I got a feeling some more will come in when I read the questions under the Desrosa arc, but that's all I got. I'm excited to continue. Very, very excited to continue. I will talk to you later. Bye.